أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أو كالذي مر على قرية وهي خاوية على عروشها. Or did you not see the example of the one who passed through a town collapsed on its roofs? قال أنى يحيي هذه الله بعد موتها. He said, how shall Allah revive this after it is dead? فأماته الله 100 عام ثم بعثه. So Allah caused him to die for 100 years and then raised him, saying, قال كم لبثت? How long did you remain? Meaning in this state. قال لبثت يوما أو بعض يوم. He replied, I have remained like this for a day or part of a day. قال بل لبثت 100 عام فانظر إلى طعامك وشرابك لم يتسنه. He said, rather you remained for 100 years. Just look at your food and your drink. Neither has spoiled nor rotten. وانظر إلى حمارك ولنجعلك آية للناس. And look at your donkey, and this we have done in order that we make you a sign for people. وانظر إلى العظام كيف ننشزها. And look at the bones, how we shall raise them up. ثم نكسوها لحما. And then clothe them with flesh. فلما تبين له قال أعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير. Then when it became clear to him, he said, I know that Allah is powerful over everything. We are reading the Tafseer of Surah Baqarah. In the previous verse, इसके साथ कुछ लग रहा है, बंद हुआ, थोड़ा इससे दूर हो गए हम पीछे वाले से, बस इसको थोड़ा पीछे हटा दो, दूर. Move this a bit that way, pull it that way. Yeah, the tall one, pull it back as further as you can. बस उसको उधर रख दो, बस हो गया. अब नहीं होगा जो इंशाल्लाह. तो ज्यादा हो गया तेरी की. उधर मुंह करो, उसका किबला की तरफ मुंह करो इसको, बस अब खत्म हो गया है. नहीं ज्यादा हो गया, फिर से इधर मुंह कर दो. सॉरी यार, आपको डिस्टर्ब कर रहा हूँ मैं. नहीं इसमें बटन नहीं है उधर. हाँ बस ये हो गया, हो गया, अब हो गया, अब हो गया. उसको प्लग निकालना पड़ेगा. अमीन पे तो मुनी में आवाज स्लो करता आवड़े. ये दरवाજો ખોલીને આવાજ સ્લો કરી દો. એ સલાહ લખેલું છે ને તે નહીં રો, આ દરવાજો પેલો નહીં, આ ફર્સ્ટ વન. એ ત્રણ છે, એક પર સલાહ લખેલું છે, એક પર એ લખેલું છે. તો સલાહ વાળું જરા નીચે કરજો, પુટ ઇટ ડાઉન. થઈ ગયું, બસ. सॉरी फॉर द डिस्टर्बेंस. हाँ जी, पीछे हमने क्या पढ़ा था? अलम तरा इलल्लज़ी हाज्ज इब्राहिम, इब्राहिम अलैहिस्सलाम स्टोरी विद नमरूद, which was to prove the wujud of existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah does exist, Allah is there, Allah knows. and Allah is the creator of everything. Off kidu. तो अभी बिल्कुल ऑफ कर दो नहीं मैं फिलहाल खाली आने एक ने ऑन रहो पहला बीजा बेने ऑफ कर दियो बस जज़ाकल्लाह so Wujud Bari Ta'ala was mentioned. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is moving on to the important subject of Hashr and Nashr, Ba'ath Ba'd al-Maut, resurrection, life after death. Because this is also important part of our Aqeedah. Very important part. If you don't believe in life after death, you're not going to behave properly. Because you don't have that sense of accountability that I am accountable, I will be questioned, I will have to answer about my life before Allah. I will have to answer before Allah on the day of Qiyamah. When you have that realization, then you will behave properly. Then you will know that Allah is watching me. I have to answer to Allah on the day of Qiyamah. बिल्कुल बंद हो गया ठीक है एक मिनट इसको ऊपर कर लेता हूं अब ठीक है then you will believe in life after death, resurrection, standing before Allah, you will behave properly. Just like in dunya, police का डर हो तो आदमी ड्राइविंग सही करता है अगर पुलिस का खौफ ना हो तो आदमी इधर उधर अलल टप जॉय राइडिंग करता है और किसी की परवाह नहीं करता ओवरटेक यूं फलाना दिमकड़ा है सारी दुनिया में हो धम मचा देता है तो जहां ये एहसास हो कि I am accountable, I could get caught, I have to answer and I have to face the consequences, punishment. So Allah Rabbul Izzati wal Jalal in Quran Sharif reminds us of this life after death in many, many ways. Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Malik Kandalwir Sahab Rahmatullah Alayhi said in Quran Sharif there are how many surahs? 114. From 114 surahs, Allah talks about Akhirat, Ba'as Ba'd al-Maut, life after death, in 68 surahs. Some surahs are only for life after death, and other surahs mention life after death to some degree. So, Allah is now reminding us of our life after death, resurrection. Allah is giving us an example of how Allah will revive people after they have decayed, the bodies have decomposed, how Allah will bring them back to life. Two stories are mentioned over here as a reminder of this. Surah Baqarah is a huge surah, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to remind us of these topics. Up to now Allah has talked about Tawheed, Allah has talked about Risalat, wa innaka laminal mursaleen, Allahu la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum, Tawheed, Sifat, Wahdaniyat of Allah. So now Allah is talking about Akhirat. Allah is saying, أَوْ كَالَّذِي مَرَّ عَلَىٰ قَرْيَةٍ. Or have you not seen the example of that person who passed by a town, وَهِيَ خَاوِيَةٌ عَلَىٰ عُرُوشِهَا, and it had fallen on its turrets, on its roof. Urush, Arsh, roof. Because when a building is destroyed, the first thing to fall is roof, and then the walls fall over it. So the roof had fallen down and the whole city was destroyed. People are all dead and the buildings have all collapsed. There is no remains there, nothing there, everything is gone. Ala qaryatin wa hiya khawiyatun ala urushiha. So he had, he was curious. Anna yuhyi hadhihi Allahu ba'da mawt. How? In what way? Anna means kaifa. Kaifa yuhyi hadhihi Allahu ba'da mawtiha. In what manner? How will Allah bring this city back to life? Breathe life in it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes shows signs. Allah doesn't give verbal answer only. Allah gives practical answer. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him to sleep for 100 years, brought him back to life. And then he said, and in the meantime, the city had been brought back to life as well. It was vibrant with people, running around, hustle and bustle and everything in there, hustle and bustle. And he himself was brought back to life. Allah is mentioning that story. When he realized, Allah told him, look, what's happened. Allah can bring back to life. Your food has not rotten. Your donkey is dead. We can keep you alive, your food fresh for 100 years. But the donkey, look at the bones scattered, flying around here and there. Now the bones get together and donkey is up and standing. Allah said, look, I brought that donkey back to life. Similarly, in the same manner, Allah will bring the whole humanity back to life. Allah explains this in another place. وَهُوَ الَّذِي يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ وَهُوَ أَهْوَنُ عَلَيْهِ وَلَهُ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the whole creation first time, and he will create it again for a second time, and making someone second times is easier than the first time. Allah said, Innahu yabda'ul khalqa thumma yu'iduhu. Allah creates first time and then recreates second time. لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ بِالْقِسْطِ. Allah said in Yasin, وَآيَةٌ لَهُمُ الْأَرْضُ الْمَيْتَةِ أَحْيَيْنَاهَا وَأَخْرَجْنَا مِنْهَا حَبًّا فَمِنْهُ يَأْكُلُونَ. A sign for them is the dead earth. We breathe life into it and we produce from it grains, and from it they eat the grains and the vegetation and the fruits and everything. We bring it out from the dead earth. So just as Allah brings the dead earth back to life, Allah will bring the dead people back to life as well. Many places Allah talks about this. The tafsir, detailed tafsir of this. Who is this person to whom Allah is referring? Ibn Kathir rahmatullahi alayhi says, Sayyiduna Ali ibn Abi Talib karramallahu wajhahu said, it is Sayyiduna Uzair alayhi salam. This is narrated by Ibn Jarir from Ibn Abbas, Hasan Basri, Qatada. This is most famous. Number two, the reference is towards Hizqeel Ibn Bawar alayhi salam, who was a prophet. Mujahid ibn Jabr said, Rajulun min Bani Israel. Imam Qurtubi narrates from Ubaidullah ibn Bakr ibn Mudhar, Wahb ibn Munabbih, that this prophet was Armiya alayhi salam. Then this city upon which he passed by, Qurtubi rahmatullah alayhi said it is Baytul Maqdis, Jerusalem. Jerusalem was destroyed and fallen on its roof. And who destroyed Jerusalem? It was Bukht Nassar. Imam Hazrat Maulana Abdul Majid Dariyabadi rahmatullah alayhi writes, the town probably was Jerusalem, as guessed by the commentators, after its dissolution in 599 BC at the hands of Bukht Nassar. So, Hazrat Uzair alayhi salam was taken as captive by Bukht Nassar when he destroyed the city, and he took many captives with him. When Uzair alayhi salam somehow managed to escape from the captivity of Bukht Nassar, he passed by this city of Jerusalem, and he said to himself, how is Allah going to bring this city back to life after what has happened to it? He was a little bit down as well because of the condition of that city, and he was, in that ajib state, depressive state. So he said, oh, look what's happened. How will Allah bring this city back to life? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him to sleep for 100 years. فَأَمَاتَهُ اللَّهُ مِئَةَ عَامٍ ثُمَّ بَعَثَهُ. Then Allah raised him after 100 years. Ibn Kasir Rahmatullah alayhi says, during this time, over a period of 70 years, the city had come back to life within 70 years. And it was full with imarat and buildings and with people well inhabited. The markets were flourishing, lots of running around, going on, taking place. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him up, and Allah said, I asked him, Kam labista. This was through an angel, not direct questioning. Because direct kalam was with Musa alayhi salam. And Uzair alayhi salam is long time after Musa alayhi salam, before Hazrat Isa alayhi salam. So Allah asked him through a malaika, Kam labista. How long have you been sleeping? How long have you remained? قال لبثت يوما أو بعض يوم, a day or half a day, part of a day, because he looked at the sun, he was rising, morning when he fell asleep, and when he got up, it was evening and sun was about to set. He said, I don't know, about a day or half a day. Allah said, بل لبثت مئة عام فانظر إلى طعامك وشرابك لم يتسنى. You've remained here for 100 years. Ya Allah, 100 years. This is like Ashab-e Kahf, who stayed there for 309 years. Now, a person, if he stays in one place on the earth consumes the body. This is why in hospitals, if a person is in coma, they have to provide special bed with water in it, and they have to, keep him turning so that the skin doesn't peel off. And over here, he's just lying down on the earth with nothing under him, and Allah kept him alive, safe, healthy, in that state. Allah protected him for 100 years. This is a sign of Allah's qudrat. Allah said, فَانْظُرْ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِكَ وَشَرَابِكَ لَمْ يَتَسَنَّ. Look at your food and your drink. It has not changed, it has not rotten, and it has not polluted. Nothing's wrong in there. It's as fresh as it was. What was that food and drink? Ibn Kasir says it was grapes, fig, and some juice. Ibn Kasir Rahmatullah alayhi said that the juice had not changed its color or taste, that had not gone sour. The fig had not changed as well, it did not dry out, it was as fresh as it was. And the grapes had not shrunk, they were in that fresh state as they were the day he was carrying that food with him. So the food and drink have not rotten, Allah has kept them as fresh as they were. But look at your donkey and how Allah is going to bring it back to life. The donkey upon which Hazrat Uzair alayhi salam was riding had died. Not only died, it had turned into bones, the flesh had gone, skin had gone, the bones were scattered, and they were shining in the heat of the sun. So the donkey is dead. And we have kept you in this manner and woken you up after 100 years so that we make you a sign for people. How is it going to be a sign? We will learn later. And wanzur ila himarik walinaj'alaka ayatan linnas wanzur ila al-'idham kayfa nunshizuha. Look at the bones, how we raise them up. Anshaza yunshizu ke mana rafa'a yarfa'u, mutana. How we raise them and bring them back to life, gather them, collect them, and then bring them back to life. Lam yatasanna meant lam yataghayyar. It has not changed. There's detail of it in Tafseer Qurtubi. Allah said, وَانْظُرْ إِلَى الْعِظَامِ كَيْفَ نُنْشِزُهَا ثُمَّ نَكْسُوهَا لَحْمًا. Then we will put flesh over it. The bones got together and the skeleton of the donkey was formed. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala covered it with flesh. and then with skin and all the components that are needed for the body. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent an angel who blew into the nostrils of that form, body, and the donkey came to life and started moving and haunty, haunty, haunty. And he's amazed because he's witnessing the resurrection with his own eyes. And at that moment, he said, "A'lamu anna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir." I know for certain that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has power over everything. My question was not to doubt Allah's qudrat and power. Hazrat Maulana Abdul Bajid Daryabadi Rahmatullah Alayhi writes, he was a believer in resurrection. He had no intention to question the fact of it, merely overpowered with awe and astonishment at a particularly desolate sight. He asks himself, how could a town so utterly ruined be brought back to life? To instill in him a greater assurance and to provide for him an ocular demonstration of his working, God wrote the miracle detail in the text. Allah brought it about to give him that confidence and demonstrate to him how Allah is going to bring the dead back to life. Imam Qurtubi Rahmatullah Alayhi says that after this, Hazrat Uzair alayhi salam went to the town. Now, in the town, Ikrimah says the day he died, he was of 40 years old. Hazrat Ali Karramallah Wajahu says that when Uzair left, he had left his wife as pregnant and he was 50-year-old at the time. Hazrat Ali says he was 50, he had left his wife pregnant. Allah put him to sleep and caused him to die for 100 years. Then Allah raised him and Allah sent him back to his family. And he was still 50 years old. And his son was 100 years old. So the father is 50 and his son is 100 years old, 50 years older than the father. Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu says, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought Uzair back to life, he rode on that donkey and he came to his mahalla and his neighborhood, and people denied him, refused to accept him, and he also was not knowing of anyone because all his contemporaries, his age people had died. So he said he came to one place and there was an old lady who had turned blind, and that lady used to be a maid in their home. So Uzair alayhi salam had left, she was only 20 at the time. When he came back, she was 120 years old. So Uzair came and he said, "Is this the house of Uzair?" And the blind old lady said, "Yes, this is the house of Uzair." And then she began to cry and she said, "Oh, Uzair had left us so many years ago." So he replied, "I am Uzair." And she said, "No, you can't be Uzair. It's about 100 years since he's gone." So Uzair said, "Well, Allah put me to sleep and caused me to die for 100 years, and then he raised me." So she said, "Okay." Uzair was mustajabud da'wat. He would make dua for a sick person, for an affected person, and that person would be cured. He would gain ifaqa. Make dua that Allah restores my eyesight and I will believe that you are Uzair. So Hazrat Uzair alayhi salam made dua to Allah and rubbed his hand over her face and her eyes opened up and she could see. And she became healthy and well, as though she was released from some shackles or chains. She looked at him and she said, I can testify that you are Uzair." And then she went to the leaders and chieftains of Bani Israel, and there was a son of Uzair who was also old man of over 100 years, and his children, meaning Uzair's grandchildren, had also aged. And she said, "Oh people, this is Uzair." So his son came towards him, and his son said to him, "My father had some uh, black colored piece of flesh additional in his body, on his back, between his shoulders. If you are him, then let me have a look between your shoulders." So he looked behind the shoulders, and that sign was there. And he said, "This is Uzair." And others say, other riwayat, Ibn Kasir and others have narrated that they said that Uzair knew Torah by heart. "If you are Uzair, then read Torah to us." And he started reading Torah to them, and he read the whole book of Torah to them, and they now were convinced that this is Uzair alayhi salam. So this is the story of Sayyiduna Uzair alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought him to life after causing him to die for 100 years. Allah has mentioned many such stories in Surah Baqarah. You remember just a few rukus back, ألم تر إلى الذين خرجوا من ديارهم وهم ألوف حذر الموت فقال لهم الله موتوا ثم أحياهم. There was a large group, Jamaat among Bani Israel. Some Mufassirin have said 70,000, who were terrified of death. And some Waba and Taun came, and they left their city. Allah was angry. Allah caused them to die, mutu. But then their prophet said, "Oh Allah, please bring them back to life." So with these du'as, Allah brought the 70,000 back to life. This is Bas Ba'd al-Maut. And before that, this surah is named Suratul Baqarah. Why? Because of the incident of the cow. When that murdered man was found in a neighborhood, they didn't know who killed him. And Allah said, "Slaughter a cow and strike a piece of that cow with the body of the deceased. He'll come to life and give you the identity of the name, the identity of the murderer." And they did this. He came to life and he mentioned the name, "So and so killed me." And then he went back to sleep, back dead. And that person was brought, he admitted his guilt, and he was punished. So in Suratul Baqarah, time and again, Allah Pak is reminding us of our life after death and proving that Allah can bring dead people back to life. This is one demonstration of Hazrat Uzair alayhi salam, when he was put to sleep, caused to die for 100 years, and then brought back to life. And to demonstrate to him, his donkey was brought back to life right in front of his eyes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to mention another incident. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. And remember when Allah said, when Ibrahim alayhi salam said, "My Rabb, show me how you will give life to the dead." قَالَ أَوَلَمْ تُؤْمِنْ. He asked, "Is it that you do not believe?" قَالَ بَلَى وَلَكِنْ لِيَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي. Ibrahim replied, "Of course I believe, but it is just that my heart be at peace." قَالَ فَخُذْ أَرْبَعَةً مِّنَ الطَّيْرِ فَصُرْهُنَّ إِلَيْكَ. He said, "Then take 4 birds and tame them to your call. ثُمَّ اجْعَلْ عَلَى كُلِّ جَبَلٍ مِّنْهُنَّ جُزْءًا. Then put on every mountain a part of them. ثُمَّ ادْعُهُنَّ يَأْتِينَكَ سَعْيًا. Then give them a call, and to you they shall come running. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. And know that Allah is mighty wise. Ibrahim alayhi salam's incident is mentioned here. Why did Ibrahim alayhi salam ask this question? Ibn Kasir rahmatullah alayhi said, when Ibrahim alayhi salam said to Namrud, "Rabbi alladhi yuhyi wa yumit," my Rabb is the one who breathes life and who causes death. He liked to rise from ilmul yaqeen to ainul yaqeen bil mushahada. to see that ihya and breathing life with his own eyes. Because he said, Rabbi alladhi yuhyi, Allah gives life, Allah breathes life. He wanted to see how Allah breathes life. So he made this question and request to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ilmul yaqeen to aynul yaqeen. Ilmul yaqeen, you know regarding something, but you want to see it. That is called aynul yaqeen. Yaqeen is of three types. Ilmul yaqeen, aynul yaqeen, haqqul yaqeen. All three mentioned in Quran Sharif. كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. And in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, وإنه لحق اليقين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم. Ilmul yaqeen is the knowledge of something with certainty. For example, you know that fire burns. That's ilmul yaqeen, knowledge. Ainul yaqeen is you see a fire burning someone. So you see it with your eyes. And haqqul yaqeen is you burn in the fire yourself. You are doing barbecue and some coal fell on you and you got burnt. Your hand was burnt. That's experiencing yourself. That's called haqqul yaqeen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this Quran is ilmul yaqeen as well, aynul yaqeen as well. And whatever Quran says, you will experience it with haqqul yaqeen as well. So Ibrahim alayhi salam wanted to rise from ilmul yaqeen, knowledge of certainty, to aynul yaqeen, the seeing with certainty. He wanted to see it for himself. And there is no harm in that. Ibrahim alayhi salam is Khalilullah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also wanted to demonstrate to the people through Khalilullah how Allah can bring back to life. So Ibrahim alayhi salam said, Rabbi arini kayfa tuhyil mawta. My Rabb, show me how you are going to bring the dead back to life. Ibn Kathir says that fi hadha sawal wal jawab fa'idatun jalilatun lis-sami'in ila yawm al-qiyamah. In this question and answer, there is a great benefit for people to come until the day of Qiyamah. Because of the demonstration. Allah demonstrated it to him. Allah first asked him, Awalam tu'min? Ibrahim, do you not believe? Allah, ये तो बहुत बड़ा सवाल था इब्राहिम अलैहिस्सलाम के लिए. Ibrahim अलैहिस्सलाम फौरन humbled himself. Of course I believe, Ya Allah. I'm only trying to put my mind at peace, ease, tranquility. I just want to see. I'm a bit curious. I want to see with my hand. Please show me. दिखाओ ना मुझको. I want to see it with my own eyes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, okay, فَخُذْ أَرْبَعَةً مِّنَ الطَّيْرِ فَصُرْهُنَّ إِلَيْكَ. Take 4 birds and tame them to yourself. Which 4 birds? Acha. And then ثُمَّ جَعَلْ عَلَى كُلِّ جَبَلٍ مِّنْهُنَّ جُزْءًا. Then kill them and put 4 parts on 4 hills and stand in the middle and call them one by one. And because they are tamed, they will come running to you. Now, which 4 birds did he take? More, murg, kawwa, kabutar. Peacock, rooster, or crow, and pigeon. He took these 4 birds. Others have mentioned other names as well. Ibn Abbas is reported to have said he took 1 goose and 1 baby ostrich and 1 murga, rooster, chicken, and 1 peacock. Whatever. 4 birds. Fasurhunna ilayka. Surhunna ilayka. There are 2 meanings to it. One is Rajulun aswar imra'atun sawra, means ma'il hone wala, leaning towards someone. So surhunna is from sara yasuru asuru, which means ma'il karna. Unko apni taraf ma'il kar lo, tame them. Because with birds, you have to train them, tame them, be friends with them. And once they get to know you, they come very close to you. Jaise billi, to murgi, तो चिकन भी तुम्हारे साथ फ्रेंड बन जाती है, पीकॉक फ्रेंड बन जाता है, तो उसको अपने साथ थीम कर लो और यूज टू कर लो उसको, एंड फसुरहुन्ना इलैका. Number two, second meaning of surhunna is sara yasuru, also means qata yaqta'u. फक्ताहुन्ना इलैका, उनको उनके पीस करो, टुकड़े करो. और सुम्म जअल अला कुल्ली जबलिन मिनहुन्ना जुज़आ, उसके बाद ज़बा करके हर पहाड़ी पर उनका एक एक पीस रखो, फिर उनको बुलाओ, वो दौड़ते हुए आएंगे. और वालम अन्नल्लाह अजीजुन हकीम, and know that Allah is mighty and powerful. Allah can do everything. Now, one question over here is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself asked Ibrahim alayhi salam. Do you not believe? This might portray some sort of shak and doubt in Hazrat Ibrahim ala nabiyina wa alayhi salam. For this reason, one hadith in Sahih Muslim says, "Nahnu ahaqqu bishakki min Ibrahim, iz qala Rabbi arini kayfa tuhyil mauta." We deserve to doubt more than Ibrahim when he said, "Rabbi arini kayfa tuhyil mauta." Meaning, we don't doubt resurrection. So how can Ibrahim alayhi salam doubt? Ibrahim alayhi salam's ranking maqam was such that وَكَذَلِكَ نُرِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَلَكُوتَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Allah showed him the kingdom of the heavens and the earth. In the tafsir of this ayat in Surah Al-An'am, 7th Sipara, Mufassirin have written that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Ibrahim alayhi salam to stand on a rock, on a high mountain. So he climbed the mountain, he stood on that rock, and then Allah opened up the secrets of the heaven in front of him. And he could see what was happening above with his own eyes. This was the mi'raj of Hazrat Ibrahim ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wassalam. So he had seen all that. His iman was million times stronger than our iman. And we don't do shak. How would Ibrahim alayhi salam do shak? So don't ever think that in this question of Rabbi arini kayfa tuhyil mauta, Ibrahim was having any suspicion and doubt and shak regarding recreation and ba'ath ba'd al-maut. He was not shak. He was just out of curiosity and a peace of mind that he made this question. And the indication behind it. You know, the question is Rabbi arini kayfa tuhyil mauta. Is not Rabbi hal tuhyil mauta. Do you understand the difference between the two? Hal tuhyil mauta means, will you bring the dead back to life? And kayfa tuhyil mauta means, how will you bring the dead back to life? Can you understand the difference between will you and how will you? So he did not say, he did not have shak. If he said hal tuhyil mauta, that would be shak. But he said, Rabbi arini kayfa tuhyil mauta. My Rabb, show me how you are going to bring the dead back to life. So there is no doubt and no suspicion in there. So once we have understood this, and we understand how Allah demonstrated to him the 4 birds. Ibrahim alayhi salam slaughtered them. Ibrahim alayhi salam put their heads on one hill, their feet and body on one hill, their feathers and wings on another hill, other parts on another hill. And he stood in such a manner he can see them all. And then he called them, peacock, come here. And the peacock's head and feathers and body and legs all join, combine, and it comes to life and it comes running. And then he calls the chicken, and the rooster comes running. And then he calls the ghurab, kawwa, and it comes running. And pigeon, and the pieces and the body parts combine, and it comes on running, and straight away, instantly on one call. And they are all there standing around Hazrat Ibrahim ala nabiyina wa alayhi salam. So Ibrahim alayhi salam said, Allah said, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Know that Allah is powerful and mighty. Aziz means al-ghalib. لا يمتنع عليه شيء يريده. He is so powerful and mighty that nothing is impossible for him. Anything he wants, he does. He is fa'alun lima yurid. And Hakim means he is wise. He Everything he does has some hikmat and wisdom behind it. He does everything with proper management, organization, tadbir, and he knows everything. He has control over everything. The whole universe is under his control. He does things with hikmat and wisdom. There is nothing in this world without hikmat. Fi'lul Hakim la yakhlu an hikmati. So this resurrection and life after death also has hikmat and wisdom in there. Hazrat Maulana Qasim Nanotwi Rahmatullahi alayhi has written in one place that resurrection ba'd al-maut is necessary. Without it, there would be no insaf, no justice. Because we see in this world various types of people: the rich, the poor, the healthy, the sick, the humble, the haughty, the zalim, the mazloom, the burglars, thieves, robbers, and all types of people mixture. Now, if this world was annihilated and there was no life after death, then the robbers and the bandits and the gangsters and the druggies and the sharabis and the looters will have had a better time, and the poor people, gharib, miskin, would have had a rough time because there's no justice. And people have been ruled over by Fir'auns and Haman and Qarun and all eras, zalims, tyrants. So there needs to be a place and where everybody is brought back, and insaf and justice, equality, fairness is established. The good are rewarded, the bad are punished, the wise are punished for their vice, and the virtuous are paid and repaid and rewarded for their virtues. It is only then that the equality and fairness will be established, and that place is Maidan Hashar, where everybody from Adam alayhi salam to the last person born until the day of Qiyamah will be there, and they will all be standing right before Allah. He will judge between them and establish justice and equality and punish the zalims and the tyrants and the burglars and the robbers and the thieves and the looters and those who behave badly and hurt and abused people. And he will reward the nice, the humble, the lowly, the weak, the pious, the virtuous, the worshippers, the devout, and the sabideen, sa'imin, musallin, qanitin, abidin, zahidin. Allah will reward them and punish the others. This is why the day of resurrection is needed. And this is why I remember reading in this book that this Hindu doctor embraced Islam after studying Islam's aqidah of akhirat, ba'ath ba'd al-maut. He said, in my Hindu scriptures, we have been told about reincarnation. In Urdu, awagavan, that as soon as a person dies, he comes back in this dunya. And one soul comes back thousands of times, if not millions. It keeps coming back and forth, back and forth. If he was good, then in some place another baby is born and this soul is breathed into that baby. If he is bad, then in some place a dog or a bitch or a donkey or a snake or a scorpion or a lion or a reptile is born, and this soul is put in there. So immediately, it's brought back into this dunya. It keeps coming back and forth in this dunya many, many times. This is called tanasukh, reincarnation. This is where they make the movies like The Lion King, where the child, he wants to come back in the next life as a lion. This is reincarnation. He said, I thought to myself, how can a person be determined to be good or bad immediately after death? Because many good things do not come into existence until many years after the person's death. Many bad things come to light after many years. Many good things, bad things continue after the death of a person. So, good things, for example, he was constructing a place of worship, but it was not completed during his lifetime. It was completed 2, 3, 4 years later, and then people start benefiting from there. So how can you determine that he is good when his work is incomplete, unfinished? Bad things, people do bad stuff. The person who invented the atomic bomb, nuclear bomb, he died. But then many years later, it was thrown on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So the evilness and the murderous nature of that person was not evident until that bomb was used and 250,000 people were killed instantly in one go. So good and bad is determined sometime many years after a person's death. You can't determine instantly as soon as a person dies whether he is good or he is bad. You have to have a place where the whole world ceases to function and everything is finished and everybody is brought in a new area, new plane where there is no a possibility of work and continuity of life. Life has ceased, and this is what Islam says: Al Yawmul Akhir. Al Yawmul Akhir means the last and final day of this dunya. Let's say today is Tuesday. So if the trumpet is blown today and the world is annihilated, there won't be a Wednesday. It will be the last day of the dunya. This is Al Yawmul Akhir. Yawmul Akhir, last day of the world. The world is going to perish. Some people believe that it's not going to perish, it's going to continue forever. This is not the Islamic belief. This is some philosophers' belief. They say alam is qadeem and alam will remain forever. There is no end to it. This is not what Islam says. No, there is a last and final day to this universe where it will cease to exist. And Allah will leave it like that for a certain amount of time. And after that, Allah will tell Israfil to blow the trumpet for a second time. And then everybody will be brought back to life. And then they will be gathered in one maidan and one plain field. And then their hisab kitab will be taken. And this is proven through aqal and naqal. Naqal, Quran Pak talks it. And aqal, logic also says that this is the right way and this is what should happen. And based on this, studying this Aqeedah Mujazat, the doctor embraced Islam and he said, declared Kalmah Shahadat, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. I'll read something from here. Mufti Taqi Usmani Sahab explains this. Mufti Taqi Usmani Sahab's father, Mufti Shafi Sahab, in Mariful Quran explains this. Mufti Taqi Sahab oversaw the translation of this. Mufti Taqi Sahab is here today in Manchester. I wanted to go there, but I thought to myself, we cancelled our dars when I was in Uzbekistan a week or two ago, and then we're going to cancel it after 2-3 weeks when I'm going on Safar again, and then Christmas time cancellation as well. So I don't like cancelling too much. So इसलिए I kept it. इंशाल्लाह मुफ्ती तकी साहब का बयान हम ऑनलाइन सुन लेंगे इंशाल्लाह. लेकिन ये वैसे मुफ्ती तकी साहब को हम बुलाने की कोशिश की थी, और जो ऑर्गेनाइजर्स हैं मैंने उनको फोन भी किया, मैसेज भी किया, लेकिन कोई जवाब ही नहीं दिया उन्होंने. तो इसलिए मैंने कहा चलो छोड़ो, उनकी मर्जी है, उनको नहीं आने देना है. तो इसलिए हम भी फिर बहुत प्रेशर नहीं किया हमने. आते तो अच्छा रहता, हमको भी अच्छा लगता है. मुफ्ती साहब तशरीफ लाते, बड़ी हस्ती हैं, अल्लाह उनकी ज़िंदगी में बरकत नसीब फरमाए. बूढ़े भी हो गए हैं, 80 से ऊपर हो गए हैं. अल्लाह उनको सेहतमंद रखे, तंदुरुस्त रखे, उनकी मेहनतें अल्लाह कबूल फरमाए, उनके दर्जात अल्लाह बुलंद फरमाए, मज़ीद काम ले, पाकिस्तान वालों के ईमान की हिफाजत फरमाए. बड़ी मेहनत कर रहे हैं. सिर्फ वही नहीं, हज़रत मौलाना फजलुर रहमान साहब भी आए हुए हैं, एक फील्ड में हैं. वो जो पॉलिटिशियन है ना मौलाना फजलुर रहमान साहब, मौलाना इस्लाम अली शाह जमीयत वालों ने उनको बुलाया है, तो वो भी प्रोग्राम में वहां पर थे. तो दोनों बुजुर्ग आए हुए हैं. अल्लाह दोनों की जिंदगी में बरकत अता फरमाए. बहुत अच्छे काम कर रहे हैं. अभी पाकिस्तान में इन्होंने वो सूदी निज़ाम 2025 क्या कौन सी साल तक खत्म कर दिया है. बैंक में से सूदी निज़ाम खत्म, और मदारिस के बारे में भी वो जो हुकूमत के कवानीन थे वो कैंसिल करा दिए. मदारिस को खुली छूट दे दी, रजिस्ट्रेशन उनका आम कर दिया कि हमारे मदारिस जो हैं उनके बगैर पाकिस्तान जो है जिंदा नहीं रह सकता है, इनकी ज़रूरत है, इसके ऊपर से सख्तियाँ ख़त्म कर दी जाएँ. तो बड़ी मेहनत की ये 2 कवानीन उन्होंने पास कराए हैं. ये बहुत मेहनत के बाद मौलाना फजलुर रहमान साहब ने, मुफ्ती तकी साहब ने, इन सब ने मेहनत करके कराए हैं. अल्लाह इनकी सारी मेहनतें कबूल फरमाए. बहरहाल हजरत मुफ्ती शफी साहब यहाँ पर जो लिखते हैं, मैं इसमें से पढ़ता हूँ, मेरे अल्फाज में आई वोंट बी एबल टू सी इट प्रॉपर्ली. दैट देयर इज राइजिंग आफ्टर डेथ and that there is life in the hereafter. give disbeliever their greatest difficulty in comprehension. They think man becomes dust after death. Then somewhere this dust scatters away with the wind. Somewhere it flows away with the water. Somewhere it reappears in the form of trees and planted fields. So much so that its particles spread out to the far sides of the world. Now, to gather these scattered parcels and human parts and to infuse life into them are things short-sighted man finds difficult to understand, because he measures everybody on the scale of his own power and status and does not deliberate in the non analogous power above him. Although, should he peep a little into his own being, he would start seeing that even today, his existence is a collection of parts and particles spread all over the world. The mother and the father through whom man comes into being, and the food that goes to make their blood and body, are themselves nothing else but particles brought together from different corners of the world. Then comes the post birth period deliberation, in which we'll show that the food causing growth, causing formation of blood and flesh, is totally composed of different particles coming from all over the world. The milk that man drinks is part of some cow or water buffalo or goat, and these composed parts came into those animals through the fodder that they have eaten. Who knows the chaff, the grain in their fodder came from which country, and who can tell how the winds roaming around the world have introduced particles from many an unnamed land into their nurture? So one can only marvel in how many ways and form, how many corners of the world, the perfect power and the precise plan of Allah Almighty has accumulated in the body of one man. The whole wide world's produce, its grains, its fruits, and everything else man eats and uses as medicine, and which become part of his body. If man, negligent and short sighted, would for a moment leave the world aside and get on with doing a little bit of research on his own body, he would discover that his being itself is composed of so many parts, some of which belong to the east, some to the west, some to the south, and still some to the north. Right this day, the precise plan of divine power has accumulated in his body all those particles scattered around the world, and after death, these particles will disperse again in the same manner. Now, why should it be difficult? Why should it be at all difficult for Allah's perfect power to assemble these particles a second time? Especially so when He was the one who had assembled these scattered particles in His being. You understand? He's taking us back to history. Where did we come from? We eat food, drink, blood is made. From blood, semen is made. 40 drops of blood make 1 drop of semen. And from that semen, human beings are created. So the mother and father's food came from where? The rice, the wheat, the bread, the meat, the milk, and the drinks, and whatever goes inside and makes the blood are all particles of the universe. And then when the baby is formed in the fetus and the survives on the blood of the mother is also particles. And then when it comes out into the world and takes the milk of the mother, breastfeeding, that milk is also, if the mother eats, if the mother is hungry, she can't eat, she can't produce milk, so she eats. So those particles, food from all around the world, from north, south, east, west. कोई मैंगो कहाँ से आई है, और फ्रूट कहाँ से आया है, और बनाना जमी कहाँ से आया है, और स्ट्रॉबेरीज कहाँ से आई है, और ये ऑलिव्स कहाँ से आए हैं, और आटा कहाँ से आया है, चावल कहाँ से आए हैं. Allah knows where everything is coming from. Those particles gathered, they made the blood, and they made this child grow, and now he grows, he eats, he lives, and then when he dies, he turns into ashes, like some people burn it or cremate, and or he goes into the earth and the particles are gone. Maybe some people are eaten by fishes, animals, whatever happens, those particles are scattered around everywhere. So why would it be difficult for Allah to bring those particles back together and form the human being again? Allah only has to say kun fayakun. Only one blow of the trumpet by the hukm of Allah, and millions and billions and trillions and zillions of human beings will be standing up like one human being. Allah said that ma khalqukum wala ba'thukum illa kanafsin wahida. Creating all of you and resurrecting all of you is so easy peasy for Allah that it's like raising just one single person. So billions of people and one person are all equal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the qudrat and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why Allah said, Wa'alam anna Allah azizun hakim. Know that Allah is ghalib, mighty, powerful, and He is hakim, and He is wise. He does everything with hikmat. This is how this mas'ala comes to a close of mas'ala of resurrection. Two examples are given over here. One is of Uzair alayhi salam, Allah making him die for 100 years, then bringing him back to life. And the second, also bringing his donkey back to life right before his eyes. And the second is of Ibrahim alayhi salam, who wanted some peace of mind and ease and tranquility. And he said, please, I want to see how you do it. And since he was Khalilullah, Allah said, okay, Ibrahim, I will show you. Right? Now, Qurtubi has mentioned over here that someone might ask, there are two prophets who made this type of requests. Allah responded to one, not to the other. Ibrahim alayhi salam said over here, Rabbi arini kayfa tuhil mawta. Allah said, okay, I'll show you. But Musa alayhi salam said, Rabbi arini anzur ilayk. Allah said, nope, you can't see me. So why? Because one was possible, the other was not possible. One was okay to respond and give, the other was not okay to respond to give. Because if the other was done, then the taklif would have been taken away, and also there is some complications in there. That's why Allah said, you can't see me with your naked eyes while you are in the dunya. You will see me when you come here, but not now. At the moment, you have to believe without seeing me. So Ibrahim alayhi salam made this request. Allah accepted his request and showed him how he's going to bring the dead back to life by telling him to take the 4 birds, taming them, killing them, and then putting their pieces around, and then standing in the middle and calling and seeing visually demonstration with his own eyes how those body parts combine. And another thing to remember is the birds did not come flying, they came running. Because if they came flying, he could have had a doubt that kahin se naya parinda Allah ne bhej diya, some new bird. But he was looking with his own eyes and they came running. It's the same body parts, it's the same components which were there, and they were connected by Allah, and ruh was breathed in there, and then they were sent to Ibrahim ala nabiyina wa alayhi salatu wasalam. This should give us peace of mind that Alhamdulillah, we know that Allah will bring us back to life and take our accounts, and inshallah Allah will reward us for the good that we have done, and inshallah will forgive us for our mistakes and shortcomings, and Allah will admit us into Jannah inshallah, because we have firm belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His qudrat, in His power, in His oneness, in His tawheed, in His bringing people back to life after death, millions of people. We believe in everything Allah said. We have no hesitation, no reservation, no suspicion, no doubt in anything which Allah has said. We believe in everything. This is how these 2 verses come to a close. So तर्जुमा कर लें पहले से आखिर से बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम أو كالذي مر على قرية وهي خاوية على عروشها قال أنى يحيي هذه الله بعد موتها. Verses 259 and 260 of Surah Baqarah. Or did you not see the example of the one who passed through a town, collapsed on its roofs? He said, how shall Allah revive this after it is dead? So Allah made him die for 100 years, then raised him. saying, how long did you remain, meaning in this state? He replied, I remained like this for a day or part of a day. Allah said, rather, you remained thus for 100 years. Just look at your food and your drink, neither has spoiled. And look at your donkey, and we did like this to make you a sign for people. You see, sign for people? When he came to Bani Israel, Qurtubi has mentioned how they questioned him and they reaffirmed that what he was saying was true. So this is a sign for people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can bring the dead back to life. And wanzur ila al-izam kayfa nunshizuha. And look at the bones, how we raise them. Thumma naksuha lahma. Then we dress them with flesh. We clothe them, cover them with flesh. فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ. So when it became evident and clear to him, قَالَ أَعْلَمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. He said, I know for certain that Allah is powerful over everything. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. And remember the time when Ibrahim said, my Rabb, show me how you will give life to the dead. قَالَ أَوَلَمْ تُؤْمِنْ. He asked, is it that you do not believe? قَالَ بَلَى وَلَكِنْ لِيَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي. He replied, of course I do believe, but it is just that my heart be at peace. قال فخذ أربعة من الطير فصرهن إليك ثم اجعل على كل جبل منهن جزءا ثم ادعهن يأتينك سعيا. He said, then take 4 birds and tame them to your call. Then put on every mountain or hill a part of them. Then give them a call, and they shall come running to you. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. And know with certainty that Allah is mighty and wise. बस अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह तफसील पूरी हो गई. अल्लाह पाक जो है हमें ईमान बास बादल मौत पर ईमान भी सही माना में नसीब फरमाए. शक शुबा डाउट शैतान हमारे दिल में डालता है, अल्लाह उससे हमारी हिफाजत फरमाए. और अल्लाह पाक क़यामत के रोज़ मैदान हशर में हमारे साथ रहम करम का मामला फरमाए, आसानी फरमाए. अल्लाह पाक हम सबको जन्नतुल फिरदौस में जगह इनायत फरमाए. अल्लाह हमसे राज़ी हो जाए. सुब्हानल्लाहि बिहम्दिही सुब्हानकल्लाहुम्मा व बिहम्दिका नशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्ला अंता नस्तगफिरुका व नतूबु इलैक. अल्लाहुम्मा लकल हम्दु व लकश शुक्र. अल्लाहुम्मा ला नुहसी सनाअन अलैक अंता कमा असनैत अला नफ्सिक. अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला सय्यिदिना मुहम्मदिन नबिय्यिल उम्मी व अला आलिहि व अस्हाबिहि व सल्लिम तस्लीमा. अल्लाहुम्मा रब्बना आतिना फिद दुनिया हसना व फिल आखिरति हसना व क़िना अज़ाबन नार. अल्लाहुम्मा इन्ना नसअलुका ईमानन कामिला व यक़ीनन सादिक़ा व क़ल्बन ख़ाशिअ व लिसानन ज़ाकिरा व तौबतन नसूहा व तौबतन क़ब्लल मौत وراحة عند الموت ومغفرة ورحمة بعد الموت والعفو عند الحساب والفوز بالجنة والنجاة من النار. اللهم ثبتنا على الإيمان وأمتنا على الإيمان واحشرنا يوم القيامة مع المتقين مع الإيمان. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين واجعلنا من الفائزين المهديين. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا ويا مصرف القلوب صرف قلوبنا على طاعتك या अरहमर राहिमीन. महज अपने फजल व करम से हम सब की मग़फ़िरत फरमा दीजिए, पूरी उम्मत की मग़फ़िरत फरमा दीजिए, रहम कर दीजिए, करम कर दीजिए. कुरान पाक को पढ़ने, समझने, उस पर अमल करने और उसकी नशर व इशाअत करने की तौफीक नसीब फरमाइए. अभी जो सबक पढ़ा उसको हमारे दिल में बिठाइए। बास मादल मौत पर पक्का यकीन हमको नसीब फरमाइए। शैतान जो हमारे दिलों में शक शुबह पैदा करता है, उससे हमारी हिफाजत फरमाइए। शैतान के शर से बचाइए, शक से बचाइए, शिर्क से बचाइए, निफाक से बचाइए, सूए अखलाक से बचाइए। हमें आपकी ज़ात पर यकीन कामिल, ईमान कामिल, यकीन मुहकम नसीब फरमाइए। या अल्लाह, बास बादल मौत जब हो, आपके सामने मैदान हशर में हाजिरी हो, तो या अल्लाह आप हमसे खुश रहिए। अल्लाह हम पर रहम फरमाइए, हमारी बख्शिश फरमाइए, हमें सरकार की शफाअत नसीब फरमाइए। क़यामत के दिन मैदान हशर में सरकार का कुर्ब नसीब फरमाइए, उनके हाथों हौज़े कौसर का पानी नसीब फरमाइए। या अल्लाह हमारी मदद फरमाइए, मीज़ान अमल पर मदद फरमाइए, आमाल नामा राइट हैंड में नसीब फरमाइए। पुल सिरात पर से बिजली की तरह पार करा दीजिए, जहन्नम के अजाब से बचाइए, जन्नतुल फिरदौस में जगह इनायत फरमाइए। हमारी टूटी फूटी दुआएं कबूल फरमाइए। पूरी उम्मत के हाल-ए-ज़ार पर रहम फरमाइए। फ़लस्तीन पर, शाम पर खुसूसी रहम फरमाइए। ज़ालिमों के हाथों को जुल्म से रोक दीजिए। ज़ालिमों के हक में हिदायत है तो नसीब फरमाइए, नहीं है तो एक एक ज़ालिम, बदमाश, गुंडे, लुच्चे, लफंगे, खबीस को चुन चुन कर ख़त्म फरमाइए। उनके नापाक वजूद से इस धरती को पाक फरमाइए। पूरी इंसानियत को उनके मज़ालिम से निजात अता फरमाइए। पूरी इंसानियत पर रहम फरमाइए। हमारी टूटी फूटी दुआएं सुन लीजिए। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम व तुब अलैना इन्नका अंतत तव्वाबुर रहीम। व सल्लल्लाहु व सल्लिम अला सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद व आलिहि व सहबिहि अजमईन बिरहमतिका या अरहमर